the topic is dependency management using Git. So before I get started, I want to say something about this because why I chose this topic in the first place. It was because this specific tools that I'm going to cover today helped my saved my time and helped make my life a little bit easier. So yeah, so I hope this helps. So before we get started, I want to cover the need for dependency management in the first place. That is, let me explain the scenario. That is, suppose you have a project and you want to use it as a part of another project that is like a dependency or as a child project. Then you just have to copy the folder everywhere. Like if you're not aware of all of these tools that I'm going to cover, or maybe you're not aware of package managers and all this stuff like that. So that's gonna lead to a lot of redundancy and duplication, and you have to basically remember the exact iteration of the child project, and you have to exactly remember with what iteration of the parent project the child repository works, right? So that's going to be a lot of work, and it's called the next disadvantage is inability to build and test from bleeding edge checkouts. So yeah, we are all aware of Git, like it helps us manage source code, but there are a set of tools provided by Git itself in house that's gonna help us support a code sharing environment workflow on a more modular level, and it can bridge the gap between Git repo, Git SCM, and the subrepos within it. So yeah, that's why I chose this topic. So coming to the solution, if you have such a problem statement, then what should you do? Is what if we could put a project within another and just feed it to different repos with some simple git commands, by the way, and push changes on the go, pull changes on the go with just simple commands on your terminal. So yeah, so this is something, there is something that's provided by Git itself in house that's called Git submodules. I'm sure that you have heard of it because it's provided by the default Git package. So there are other third-party tools like Git subtree, Gites, Git repo, Git subrepo, all of this. So the cliched way is going by the terms. So I found this very fun picture on the internet. That is, picture this. So this is not a Photoshop picture, by the way. So yeah, so this is a picture of a cherry tree growing on top of a mulberry tree. So what happened is, I'm not sure how this took place on the biological sense, like some grafting techniques and stuff like that. I'm not sure of the exact terms. That is for you to know if you are aware of this particular field. But what I'm gonna touch upon is something that you are very familiar to when it comes to being computer engineers, that you have seen tons of these diagrams when you were trying to understand subtrees, graphs, and stuff like that. So yeah, we are going to achieve something similar as shown in this figure with the help of these tools. So moving on, first tool that I'm going to discuss is Git submodules. That is, you can nest Git repositories within another Git repository, and it points to a specific commit reference of the child repository only. I'm going to demonstrate that in a bit. And obviously, it has to, overcome the disadvantage that we talked about, that is ability to build and test from bleeding edge checkouts. If it doesn't do that, then what is it for, right? And you also have the option and the liberty to update specific submodules. So moving on, demo time. So I have a project set up right here. Let me see. Yep, there it is. So yes, so I kind of built this for the demo right now. So first thing that you notice here is the .git modules config file, right? So that is going to help you distinguish between a repo that has submodules and a repo that doesn't have submodules, okay? So if you see something like this config file right here, then you're gonna immediately know that uh, you know, it contains Git submodules. So if you go into this config file right here, yep. So you can see there are three submodules. There is this path, there is this URL. So you'll know where this came from altogether when I'll run you through the commands. So if you have used, you can see these are not regular folders, okay? So these are like, looks like symbolic links. If you have worked with symbolic links on GitHub before, then you'll be able to relate to these, folders right here. So, and also you can see this, there is this path followed by the commit hash right here. So if you click on this, it takes you to an entirely new repo altogether. So if you want to have a look at it, that's this repository right here. It's provided in the docs section, so you can have a look at it. So yeah, so now I'm going to show you how I did it on the terminal. So the command that you're going to use to add a submodule is git submodule add followed by the URL. That's all that you're going to do. So by default, if you're going to add it, then it takes the name of the repository as the name of the folder, name of the symbolic link or the folder, and it's going to add this URL to the git modules file. And if you don't have a git modules file at first, don't worry about it, it's going to create one for you. So let me take you, I have done this already, so let me take you to my VS Code. So yeah, you can see these S symbols that states that they are submodules. So that's how you know about whether your repository contains submodules or not. Now that I've added it, we got this new entry right here, that is the path and the URL. So yeah, that's how you add a Git submodule. Taking you to the terminal. So if you want to update submodules, all of them altogether, then you can do a Git submodule update. So that's going to update all the submodules for you. But if you want to update a specific submodule, as stated earlier, then you can do a git submodule update hyphen remote followed by the path name. So yeah, that's how you're going to update specific submodules. And if you're going to remove a submodule, then you can use this command right here that's called git rm-f followed by the path name. So you can do it manually as well, you can delete it, but it's not going to remove from the remote. So make sure that you have that in mind when you're working with git submodules. So moving on to the next tool right here, that is git subtree. So it was introduced in version 1.7.11 as an alternative to git submodule to handle external dependencies, and it was introduced around June 18, 2012, if I'm not wrong. You can check the tags, of course. So it this helps you insert any repository as a subfolder inside another repository, and helps you manage them, of course. And then you can inject dependencies, then you can extract projects as well, that is you can extract a subfolder as a separate project as well. So also there is this thing about git subtrees. The major distinguished feature that I noticed right here is it merges the entire commit history of the child repository with the parent repository. So yeah, that's gonna make your repository super big, so keep that in mind as well. So it stores the external dependencies and regular commits, and it provides clean integration points. You can see the exact commit history, but it can mess up your commit history a bit if you're pushing and then adding a subtree and stuff like that. So but it's easier to revert. So yeah, we can go ahead with this. So demo time, I also tried this and I have a repo configured right here. Yes. So yeah, another disclaimer when I'm talking about Git subtrees is the official documentation provided by GitHub doesn't provide this particular Git subtree version with the .git trees config file. Okay. So if you want to have this particular version of Git subtree with .git trees config file, then you have to download it from the contrib folder in the official Git repository. You can see git/contrib. Yeah, that's where you get it from. And you have to go to subtree and read the documentation and set this up. And another disadvantage that I noticed right here is everyone, if you're working in a code sharing development workflow, uh, they won't know about uh, whether your repository has subtrees or not in the first place if you don't have this particular config file, because it looks like a regular folder, right? It looks like a regular subfolder. So also if you click on this subfolder right here, you can see that it's just a subfolder. So it's very important to have this .git trees config file. And again, all of the users, all of the stakeholders who are going to interact with your project need to have this particular subtree downloaded from the contrib folder. So that's another hassle as well. But if it still satisfies all your use cases, you can always go ahead with it. So the command that you're going to use for the same is git subtree add followed by prefix is equal to new/subtree, the path. And if you don't have the exact path, don't worry about it, it's going to create a path for you, followed by the URL, followed by the branch name. So it's very important to specify the branch name. because that's going to be mentioned in the .git trees config file. So if you go inside it, you can see that there is this branch stuff right here. So yeah, based on whatever inputs you give, it's going to populate the .git trees config file. Moving on with the other commands, that is, if you want to push to subtrees, then you can use a git subtree push all. It's like an all or none policy, like atomicity. Okay, that was unrelated. I was talking about ACID properties of databases, but yeah, but if you want to pull from different subtrees, that you're going to use a git subtree pull all. I mean, there are commands for there are maybe commands for pulling and pushing one by one, but I prefer these commands altogether because if there are differential changes, then it will be taken care of, right? So yeah, that's how you're gonna work your way through git subtrees. So here are certain links if you want to get your hands dirty. So I have provided the link with the .git trees file. So it took me some time to figure out, because the official git subtree documentation didn't have this .git trees config file. And if you don't have that, then it's going to be a local thing on a computer. It cannot be used in a code sharing development workflow. So moving on, the examples that I showed is actually chunks of documentation written with ASCII doctor. So I kind of fed that to multiple, parent repositories. But you can do that with project dependencies as well. I have tried that as well. So I have an example that is the Druze JBPM build bootstrap. And I kind of added these three subtrees. You can see that from the .git trees config file. And then I ran a Maven build, and it just works fine. So yeah, it uh, can help with managing project dependencies as well. And also it eliminates redundancy, of course, and it makes maintenance easier. But again, you have to be little bit proficient with your git, so that you get this correct. So, and if you have a use case like me, like single sourcing documentation between community and product. I work for an open source company, so that was a use case. And you can publish in various platforms like Gitbook and other such platforms as well, by just feeding the child repository to multiple parent repositories. So talking about the differences, I wouldn't say it's an exact alternative, but I'm just gonna uh, run through the differences, whatever I noticed. So Git submodule was a little bit harder for me to grasp, because I wasn't able to understand the git commit reference thing, but it just links to a commit reference in another repository, whereas in git subtree, the whole commit history of the child repository is completely merged into the parent repository. So I can show that on the example right here. Whoops, it's taking some time. Yep, you can see these commits are my own, but the others are from the child repository itself. So it's gonna mess up, and also make the size of your or project large. So yeah, but git submodules require the submodule to be accessible in a server like GitHub, because it's just a commit reference. Whereas with git subtree, it is kind of decentralized, because it entirely has a copy of the child repository within itself. So Git submodules can be used for a component-based development, whereas you can use the same use Git subtrees for system-based development for all or none. But if you want to have a side-by-side, difference check between the two, then you can use this cheat sheet right here. That's there in the docs again. So moving on to some caveats that I noticed, that is Git subtree is not a direct replacement to Git submodule. And if you have an external repository that you own and are likely to push code back to, then use git submodule, because I noticed it's easier to push. Whereas with third-party code that you're unlikely to push code to, then use git subtree, because I noticed that it's easier to pull. So yeah, moving on to the alternatives. But before we get started with this, let me have a look at the poll. Can the moderator please put the poll here? I think it hasn't been opened. I don't see any entries. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing for a bit so that you can have the poll on the screen. So yes. Oh, the numbers are increasing. People are commenting live. That's great. Yeah, of course. I kind of Git repo. Oh my god. That's a good number, 33.88%. I kind of expected Git submodules to be the most used because it's provided by the default Git package, right? You don't have to install anything, and we know uh, how it can be problematic to you know install an entire thing and across a code sharing environment as well. But I expected more inputs from Git subrepo, but it's fine. Have you heard about? Okay, let's talk about the other one. Okay, I'm closing it for now. Let's go to the used one. Okay, I don't see any entries as of now. Okay, the poll closed with Git submodules at par with Git repo. That's great. So I'm gonna share the next poll, that is which of these have you used? Okay, Git repo. Oh my god, that's great. I think because one of the things that it's maintained by Google, I think that's why it has a lot more, because of course it must be having great documentation. Git sub repo is a little bit less. Git sub modules 31.48%. That's great. Thanks a lot for sharing your inputs right here. The number is increasing for Git repo. That's great. So I didn't expect this, but thanks for surprising me, by the way. uh, okay, I'm closing this for now. I'm gonna open the third one, that is which of these do you use for dependency management in JS? Okay, start polling, start giving in your answers. Of course, Lerna is popular. Others, oh my god, okay, others are popular. So write that in the chat, right? What do you use for dependency management in JS? I would love to know the entries. I think it needs to be talked about, right? JavaScript is one of the most popular languages on GitHub, so of course, you can check the chat. Okay, PNPM, Zarn. Okay, that is some new stuff that I'm listening about. NX.dev. So cool. I'm gonna share that then. Yeah, that's what it looks like as of now. Okay, I expected Learner to have, you know, a little bit larger percentage, but it's fine. I guess there are a lot of tools and we choose whatever serves our purpose best, right? So yeah, you do you. So be it. Cool then. I'm closing the poll as of now and moving on the topic. So if you're looking to get your hands dirty, I have added the links in the docs for Git slave, Git repo, Git subrepo, and also for Lerna and Bit. So I have used Lerna on my own, but I haven't used Bit. So I was expecting the things that was there in the poll regarding JavaScript. So talking about GitS, that is the commands in a parent repository cascades to all child repositories, which is a very good thing, I guess. Like if you have, it is just a script, by the way, and it is going to. And I saw that the repository has been archived for some reason, so I guess it's not in the active development. So you have to keep that in mind again. So and GitS has been used for mid-sized product development with many linked child repositories, and it is just a supplement for providing identical Git actions over all linked repositories. So that's what it does. But if you have a use case specific to this, you can always use it. So if you want to know more, head over to gitslave.sourceforge.net. So again, all of this is linked in the docs tab. Okay, not docs, docs tab. Uh, Talking about Git repo, I think this was the most popular one. So I think it doesn't need any further introduction. Like I can notice that yesterday, I think I got to the repo on Gerrit or Gerrit, whatever. I may be butchering the name, so pardon me for that. So I saw that it's still under active development. I think the latest commit was 27 minutes ago or something of that sort when I was having a look at it. So, yep. It helps manage many Git repositories, does the uploads to revision control systems, and automates part of the development workflow. So again, it's just an executable Python script that does it for us. And coming about talking about the last tool that we have right here, so it claims that it has many advantages and over subtree and submodule, the most popular ones, I would say. As per the poll, they are not, but yeah, it just highlighted the advantages it had over Git subtree and Git submodule. So when it comes to ease of use, I think the commands are kind of a bit of similar to subtree and submodule, and the users cloning your repo, they don't have to install subrepo. I think that's a great advantage. And also, the commit history is kind of squeaky clean. That is, uh, you don't merge the entire commit history. It kind of is squashed and is merged in a single commit, I guess. So yeah, that's what it claims in its documentation. So I think the official documentation is GitHub README, so you can head over there. As soon as you type it, I think it's the first thing that you see on the. It's the first thing that appears, first search result. So, and also this upstream changes can be pulled in and local changes can be pushed back. So yep. So the whole point of this whole discussion was to help you make an informed decision regarding what tool you need to use. Because when I wanted to introduce this to my team for single sourcing documentation, by the way, but it kind of ended up differently because we have people ranging from non-technical backgrounds as well. Because I was kind of single sourcing documentation, so there were people who were writing docs, so they didn't want to add an extra layer of complexity regarding. They were having trouble operating with Git as it is. So yeah, so that is why we didn't kind of adopt this, but the whole point was to just introduce the different tools that we have for dependency management using Git, and help you make a well-informed decision. So make sure that you read all the docs, read all the trade-offs that each of these tools offer, and then make a rational decision based on that. So yeah, thank you for lending your ears.
Manaswini,
Yeah, tell me.
I just wanted to point out that the slides weren't being shared if you intended to share them.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, okay, this happens, I'm a human. Okay, I should have pushed it. So nothing different, it's just very boring text. So but looking at the audience, looking at the polls, I'm very sure that you already know all of this. I just touched upon these and kind of showed demos for subtree and submodule. I didn't have time to exactly prepare the demos for all the other three, but I have used subtree and submodules very extensively, and I know their advantages and disadvantages. But we didn't go ahead with uh, either of those because of the added layer of complexity when it comes to having already having extra layer of information over the existing Git stuff. That may be a little bit tedious for in a code sharing development workflow. So yep, cool. Thanks a lot for lending your ears. This is my GitHub handle and my email ID in case you want to reach out to me, just in case I'm not able to answer any questions right now. So cool. Heading over to the Q&A tab right now. We'll keep this stuff open as of now for you guys to note down. Cool. I'll stop sharing. So yeah, one more thing. Please add your questions in the Q&A tab rather than on the chat because it's gonna get lost. So we don't want your precious questions to get lost, right? So please do that on the Q&A Q&A tab. Okay, I see some questions, I guess. how do we access your links? Yeah, please head over to the docs tab. It has all the links. Is this a good way to manage a monorepo? Is it's possible to compare it with Lerna or PNPM? To be uh, to be very honest, I've only used Lerna once, and I haven't used PNPM. So I'm not even. I'm not sure that it can be used to manage a monorepo or not. Again, it depends upon your use case. But I think some tools may be of help. Maybe Git repo. Cool. Moving on to the next question. Yep. Could you name a real life example where GitHub modules or GitHub trees should be used and why? So real life example, I haven't, except for the examples that I created on my own. There were very few examples that I could spot with Git subtrees, I would say, because again, whoever were working with Git subtrees, they were uh, they were not sure of this .git trees config file, and uh, like having to download it from the config folder and stuff like that. So it took me a lot of time to land into the documentation as well. So, but I have seen repositories with Git submodules, by the way. I think it's very widely used because it's there from the default Git package, right? So, yep. To be used and why? Again, okay, I'll just answer that in short, is if you just want to point to a certain commit reference, again, it points to the latest commit reference, so be sure about that. So just if you want to just point to a certain commit reference, then use Git submodule. Whereas if you want to use copy the entire child repository as a subfolder, then use Git subtrees. Yes. This is a good alternative to using pip install with the Git URL for a package repo that's not on PyPy. That may be. I haven't tried it, but maybe a good use case to try with. But again, nice question, by the way. It got me thinking. You can try it, by the way. I think this is worth a try. Can you link subfolders of dependent repos to any particular subfolder to the target repo? Yes. Yeah. One thing I noticed about Git subrepos is that it helps you have subrepos within subrepos. I think that's what you're asking about, right? So I didn't try that with subtrees and submodules, but Git subrepo, claims that it has this facility of, having subrepos within subrepos. So yeah, you can try Git subrepo, by the way, in this case. Lerna versus subtree, which is suitable for JavaScript. Of course, it's Lerna. Hands down, it's Lerna because I noticed that, subtree is provided by Git. So you may think that it's a good option, but again, in a code sharing development workflow, if you're sharing it across the team, then everyone needs to, download it and all of that. That's a lot of hassle again. But if you have Lerna, I think it's way easier because it's a JavaScript framework slash package, whatever. I may be wrong, so please correct me there. So yeah, I think it's provided by JavaScript itself. So I think Lerna is a better option, of course. Yep.
Hi Manaswini, the time is almost up, so I'm picking up the next most voted question and sharing it. That will be
Sure.
the last question we're going to answer. Yeah, this is it.
Oh, okay. Is this can work to connect a backend and front end in a CI/CD pipeline? Uh, yes, it can. I guess it. I have never used this, but this is giving me a lot of ideas to use it in real life. So I think these are real life scenarios that we are talking about. So I think it can work. Um, but again, in the CI/CD pipeline, I kind of played around with CI/CD a bit because I was kind of trying to enable pull requests on a what do you call that? the docs stuff that we have for Git. I tried that to enable pull requests there. I am not exactly remembering the term. It's not there at the top of my at the top of my head, but it's there at the tip of my tongue. So yeah, but I used a CI/CD pipeline for enabling pull requests on the what it's called. Let me just have a look. Mm, yeah, it's called Wiki. Sorry, GitHub Wiki. Uh, okay, so I kind of tried enabling pull requests on a GitHub Wiki, and uh, yeah, I was able to do that, but I didn't use subtrees or submodules. I just tried that, and it worked just fine. So again, if you're wondering, GitHub Wiki is not a regular repository; it's a different repository. Okay, so yeah, keep that in mind as well if you're trying to make some things work with GitHub Wiki and you cannot see pull requests there. So cool then. Thank you so much for interesting questions. I'll try the use cases that you mentioned. Very interesting questions, by the way. I think we are at the top of the hour, right? Cool. Okay, then I'll take your leave. Have a good evening, good night, good rest of the day, wherever you are. So, yep. Bye bye.